Fights.
Just go for it!
Someone once said the greatest battles aren't fought on the battlefield, but are fought within ourselves. Cute, but clearly they never saw Endgame. I love fights, especially in fiction. Sure, a street fight or a wrestling match are cool, but nothing beats a well-crafted fight scene. Whether it's a one-on-one duel, a chaotic bar brawl, or an all-out war. Watching someone dish out and take a beating, peak entertainment. I love the elegance of martial arts films, the godlike energy of superhero battles, the brutality of John Wick shootouts, and whatever it is they be doing in Fast and Furious these days. From the beautifully choreographed to the downright absurd, if it's a good fight scene, I'm locked in. And honestly, can you blame me? Humans have loved fights since the Colosseum days, and probably long before that. Take Star Wars. As divisive as the series is, most people will agree Obi-Wan vs. Anakin is iconic. It's the climax of Anakin's descent, a master and student turned enemies, clashing in a furious, heartbreaking battle with a smoldering volcanic landscape as the backdrop. It's intense, it's biblical, it's the one thing everyone loves about these films. But the question is, what makes for a good fight? Is it masterful choreography? Is it crazy weapons and abilities? Is it an enchanting story about two characters with conflicting ideologies coming to blows to prove their way of life is the correct path? Maybe. Wouldn't you like to know? That one really hurt. I don't have much time left. Oh, hey. It's been a while. Don't get too excited. The circus is closed. I'm not seeing Krista today, and I'm really not in the mood for you either. I'll need you to go away for a while. What the? Didn't I say get lost? Jesus. Go away. Oh, for the love of... What is your deal? Jesus Christ. If you're not going to leave me alone, fine. Don't expect another therapy session. You eavesdropped on my last conversation with Krista, so you lost your window into my mind privileges. Dickhead. I swear if you were real, I'd kick your ass. Huh. Actually, that gives me an idea. We're going to talk, but it's going to be about what I want and for however long I want it to be. So don't go digging around for something meaningful. You might not like what you find this time. That I can promise. Let's talk about fights in Battle Shonen. Alright, Alright, we've done these talks enough times. You know how I work. We'll cover what makes for a good fight, go over some examples of ones I love, and break down my favorite one. You'd think we wouldn't need to discuss the basics, right? Aren't all fights just for excitement and looking cool? Well, yeah, duh. But there's more to it. Any good writer, director, or mangaka worth their salt meticulously crafts each fight with purpose. Fights aren't just filler. They can serve the story in meaningful ways. Surprisingly, people overlook this. Whether a fight is for entertainment, narrative progression, or both, it's intentional. I may not trust you like I once did, but I know you're smart. So don't worry, you'll get it. To break down the core tenets of a good shonen showdown, I deconstructed the concept into a 4-point system that I think properly flows together. I present to you the how, where, when, and why system. 4 important questions you must answer to get the basic elements of your shonen fight down, or really any fight for that matter. But focus up, doofus, class is in session. How refers to how the characters fight, or more specifically, choreography. Whether your characters are throwing hands or throwing fireballs, swinging swords or shooting guns, you have to decide what they're doing and how they're doing it. This will vary based on a few elements: fighting style, spectacle, intent, etc. How the characters fight can be used to say a lot about them, from how they were trained or what kind of person they are, or how they feel about the opponent. Clara Hotch in Writer's Digest writes about how the major difference between a sparring match and an actual fight often comes down to intent of those involved, which can really change up how they choose to fight. Good example of this would be like, I don't know, Gon versus Hisoka. Two very different characters from size, experience, fighting styles coming to blows in a tournament setting. Gon is trying his very best by rushing Hisoka with a flurry of punches, throwing everything he can to try and find an opening. Hisoka, calm and collected, dodges and counterattacks. Gon is clearly on the back foot, so you as the viewer are watching to see if Gon can land a hit and throw Hisoka off his game. Once Gon does land a hit, the battle ramps up, with both characters going at quick speeds. Just from the fight alone, you can tell that Gon has the passion and potential to catch up to Hisoka, but the level Hisoka currently is at is far above what Gon can reach right now. When you design your choreography well, sometimes the punches alone will tell the story without a word being spoken. Where stands for where the characters fight. Location. I know, this may seem arbitrary. I mean, who cares about where fights happen? Everyone, actually. Dumbass. Didn't I say focus up? The environment can shape the battle, offering tactical advantages or unique movesets on the terrain. They can be symbolic of the emotional state of the characters. Some fight locations are so iconic, you can literally show someone an image of the location and the whole fight will play out in their head. For storytellers, especially mangaka, managing a fight setting while maintaining choreography and spatial awareness is no small feat. You know what series has some cool fight locations? Jujutsu Kaisen. In the manga, but especially in the anime, I've always loved how the series utilizes space. On top of all the techniques and battle knowledge that goes into a JJK fight, characters take advantage of their surroundings a lot, which makes for some fun exchanges. Shibuya has some really good examples of this, but the best of the best example is, of course, Yuji versus Choso, the bathroom. An unassuming location, but its purpose and how it's used is what puts it up there for me. The water in the room puts Choso at a disadvantage because of his curse technique, turning it into an arena that places both of the characters on equal footing. A narrow space will become transformed as the battle continues, both fighters using different angles and blind spots provided by the location to gain the upper hand. Its limitations become an integral part of the fight, as Yuji and Choso have to be more creative if they want to make it out alive. When means when the characters fight, or anticipation. Another seemingly low importance element, but you would be surprised how often you see it used. Think of any final battle you've seen in a shonen. That confrontation was built up to. By the time the first punch is thrown, you reflect on every moment that led to it. Ichigo versus Byakuya, Rukio versus Satsuki, Ippo versus Sendo. A well-planned march towards the eventual face-off. Building up the fight will give the viewers lasting payoff. Exploring what makes these characters work and what led to them facing off will make the final showdown much more entertaining. An example for this I want to use isn't exactly shonen. A slight pivot, I know, but come on, how can I not talk about Jin versus Mugen? two skilled swordsmen with wildly different personalities and fighting styles fatefully meet and immediately clash. Their official fight ends in a draw, and before they can go for another round, they are contracted not to kill each other until their mission is complete. We now wait patiently for them to complete their journey, so we can watch them finish their match. Along that journey, we learn more about them, and they start to form a bond in mutual respect until finally, we are introduced to them battling to their heart's content at the beginning of the series, a real test of sword fighting and animation for the final slash to end so quickly. Two men of equal strength who no longer need to kill to prove themselves. An ending fit for both of them, and that anticipation made it all the more worth it. The most important element is the why the characters fight, or simply put, the story. Fights should mean something. Action for the sake of action or violence for the sake of violence can be fun to watch, but the added context of purpose behind the fight is what elevates it to greatness. When crafting a battle, ask, who are the people involved? What do they want or need? How will they change afterward? Answering these questions will give you the context on how to orchestrate a battle that plays on these factors. Or as a viewer, it will allow you to see the deeper story at play. Shonen anime and manga are often associated with fights, particularly due to the popularity of Battle Shonen. What I love about these fights is their focus on characters fighting to protect something, or to stand by their beliefs, or to prove themselves. Acts of bravery that inspire. Every fight we've discussed so far embodies this. No matter how flashy or over the top a battle seems, there's always a story being told. Some series do this better than others, of course, but when done right, fights become powerful narrative tools, sharpened by the skill of the storyteller and used to carve excitement, immersion, drama, whatever the storyteller wants, into the collective psyches of those who experience them. One fight that will be forever engraved into my skull is Lust versus Roy Mustang. Not a heavy fight on anticipation, choreography, or even location. It is one fueled by rage and duty. Colonel Roy Mustang is a man who has done everything he can to do the right thing and protect those close to him. He fights and struggles to find truth and is faced with beings he can barely comprehend. Tasked with protecting his team and fighting the monster who is responsible for his best friend's death, Roy pulls himself from the brink of defeat against Lust, a once thought unkillable being with improvisational alchemy. With every flick of the lighter, you can feel Roy's rage burn into her as he reduces Lust's Philosopher's Stone down to ash. Without the context of every event that led to this moment, these flames are just that, flames. But with them, they become flames of justice and retribution. All shonen fights. Next time you watch your favorite series, you'll be better equipped to analyze what makes the fight work, or what's missing. Speaking of which, what is your favorite fight anyway? Alright, you don't talk. Honestly, that might be your best quality. A friend of mine once told me that a teacher once told him there are 3 types of conflicts: man versus man, man versus nature, and man versus self. Interesting, but a bit too broad for my taste. There are countless subtypes within these categories. If I had to choose, there are 2 types of shonen fights I love most, and they've led to the most iconic matchups in history. First, let's talk about next level fights. Next level fights are about characters attempting to prove themselves in combat. Defeating the enemy will act as proof that the victor has overcome something or learned a valuable lesson. Fights that are designed to help characters grow in some way, either by allowing them to overcome a lie they've told themselves, master a technique they could not get right before, prove themselves as someone capable, the list goes on. These fights are often a great stage to unveil transformations. But that's enough preamble. The first fight that comes to mind in this category is Luffy versus Katakuri. What? You thought just because we talked this long and I hadn't brought up One Piece at all that you were safe from the glazing? Yeah, right. Luffy vs. Katakuri is one of the best fights during the post-time skip era, because for me, it's reminiscent of Luffy's fight with Rob Lucci. 2 characters duking it out, but this time, it isn't fairly evenly matched. Luffy is outclassed due to Katakuri's utilization of his Mochi Mochi abilities, which are very similar to Luffy's Gum Gum abilities, and his mastery of future sight hockey, a technique Luffy needs to improve in. While the situation may seem dire, Luffy needs to beat Katakuri while the other Straw Hats deal with their own issues. Luffy could not ask for a better opportunity to grow as a fighter, since his goal is to take down all of the Yonko. This is as basic of a next level fight as you can get, where a character specifically uses a fight as a way to improve. Think of it as a crash course in training. As the fight continues, we witness Luffy begin to understand the rules around Katakuri's abilities and the application of said abilities. We better understand the kind of person Katakuri is and why he fights. And we watch as these two men form a mutual respect for each other, fighting to their last breath to protect something dear to them, elated to meet someone they can have an honest fight with. As Luffy evolves through the battle, he unveils Gear 4, Snake Man, an answer to Katakuri's speed and future sight. The closer to this bout is so powerful and filled with grit that the final panel of them clashing has become a top 10 One Piece panel for me. In the end, Luffy was able to walk away from the fight stronger, but he also left with the respect of his opponent. Good next level fight, but let's ramp things up a bit and go plus ultra. Deku versus Muscular. Of all the trials Deku faced in this series, whether it's the League of Villains' first assault on UA, or the Sports Festival, or Stain, or the second assault on UA, Jesus, can this guy catch a break? Deku has always had one thing: backup. That's not to say that he was being carried, but more that at the very least, Deku either didn't have to do the bulk of the fighting, or if he did, it would be done with one major assist before getting sidelined from his injuries. There was always someone coming, whether it was All Might or his classmates. All Deku had to do was buy time. That was until Muscular. The leveling up in this example isn't so much physical, but more psychological, internal growth. This is an opportunity for Deku to learn how to be a hero all on his own without the aid of others, how to go plus ultra solo, and go plus ultra he certainly does. In a fight to protect Koya, a child disillusioned with the concept of heroism, with his body on the line more than it's ever been, and with no backup coming, it was up to Deku to keep Koya safe from the physical embodiment of violence that stood before him. Having broken every finger and both arms twice, Deku's body was more totaled from his own power than from Muscular. He still hasn't fully broken the cycle of hurting himself with his own power to complete a goal, but the situation didn't leave room for him to play it safe, even going as far to carry Koya on his teeth to protect him. After Deku put it all on the line, it still wasn't enough. 100% wasn't enough. It didn't matter how many limbs Deku broke. If he was still alive, he had to fight with 100%, 200%, 300%, 1,000,000% of his power until Muscular was finally defeated. This was the moment that Deku was able to break free of his dependency on others to save him. He finally found the resolve to go all the way on his own. When Koya asked Deku why he would go so far for someone who had insulted him, Deku's response was,
"Okay. It'll all be okay! I will not let him get past me!"
And this had become more true than ever. Deku proved to Koya the values of a hero, but more importantly, he proved them to himself. Next up, we have Clash of Ideal fights. These fights are when two characters with opposing views come to blows to prove their side is right. Good versus evil, oppressed versus oppressor, power versus friendship, freedom versus tradition. These are best implemented not by simply having two characters who disagree and throwing them at each other, but by creating a scenario in which their opposing standpoints come into conflict, setting a sequence of events in motion that will eventually lead these characters down a path where they must stand and collide. These are often more emotionally charged, not only because the characters involved feel strongly, but you as a viewer may find yourself siding with one of them as you become more attached to the conflict. More so the hero side in most cases, unless you're one of those people who goes around thinking villains like Thanos was right, in which case, please seek help. Let's kick this off right with the classic. One of the most captivating and oldest Clash of Ideal fights in shonen manga or anime comes from, surprise, surprise, Dragon Ball. Goku vs. Vegeta's first match at the end of the Saiyan saga remains as one of the most brutal, interesting, hype, and every other adjective fights of all time. In one corner you have Vegeta, crowned heir to a fallen race with pride bigger than any solar system. Sure, he may be the subject to the whims of the oppressor and destroyer of said race, but he still was a prince. All who stood before him were weak, including these so-called Earthlings. With this newfound plan to use the Dragon Balls to make himself immortal, it seemed there was no possible chance for anyone to stand in his way. But there was a problem, and his name was Son Goku. Freshly back from the dead and coming off a workout regimen that would make a Baki character blush, Goku practically curb stomps Nappa immediately on his rival, then sets his sights on the Saiyan Prince as his next opponent. Here is where the stage is set for our Clash of Ideal match. Goku, a Saiyan raised on Earth, who by hard work and consistent training has overcome a warrior that had toppled all of his friends, now stands against a warrior born to be the greatest. To Vegeta, Goku was nothing more than a low-class Saiyan, one removed from the very core of everything Vegeta perceived a Saiyan to be, one who was unaware of the suffering Vegeta had to go through to survive and get as strong as he did. For Goku, Vegeta was nothing more than a hostile invader who threatened his friends, family, and identity, but also seemed to look down upon him simply because of some proclaimed birthright. This was a clash of everything these two men held dear: culture, pride, fighting style, upbringing, and even history. Throughout the fight, you can see how this ideal clashing is framed. Vegeta standing on platforms above Goku, always needing to rise above and becoming more agitated every single time Goku knocked him down. My personal favorite example of this can be seen during the beam struggle. Goku standing firmly on the earth he's trying to protect as his Kamehameha clashes with Vegeta, who fires a Gallic gun from the empty void of the sky. Nothing behind him, nothing he's trying to protect. Vegeta relying on his Saiyan heritage by turning into a great ape, a symbol of the Saiyan's power, while Goku utilizes the Kaioken, Kamehameha, and every ability he picked up from his ceaseless dedication to Earth martial arts, but ultimately it was all the friends that Goku had made along the way and protected over the years that had helped him endure Vegeta's assault. In the end, Goku didn't just win the physical battle, but also the ideological one, showing Vegeta mercy in defeat. A lesson foreign to the Saiyan Prince, was much a wound to his pride as losing the fight or his tail at all. In the end, Vegeta left Earth a changed man. This fight stripped everything Vegeta believed in to the bone and laid the foundation for him to become more human. And weirdly enough, somehow Goku a bit more Saiyan? But that's a conversation for a different day. Some of the best examples of Clash of Ideal fights come at the climax of a story. Like I said earlier, it's best to set up the pieces for characters to finally meet. Normally that play is set up throughout the entirety of a story, so the protagonist and main antagonist are the ones with the conflicting views, placing the whole theme of the story on the line, where the hero must triumph and prove their way was right all along. I'm sure there are many fights that come to mind, but the one I think will stand the test of time is Simone the Digger versus the Anti-Spiral. The battle for humanity's right to live free. Simone the Digger is more than just a character. He's a symbol and reminder to always move forward even when you feel like you can't anymore, or if it's too scary to do so. From his humble beginnings of living underground to break free and exploring the surface, to eventually reaching the heavens themselves. Trial after trial, Simone always drilled through his own path with the help of everyone he's come to know and love at his side. A showcase that no matter how insurmountable the task, humanity will always find a way. The Anti-Spiral stands in direct opposition to this, believing the more freedom mankind has, the more damage they will do. He embodies the feeling of giving up that exists within all of us, the fear of what trying harder will bring, the instinct to hide away and quit. The Anti-Spiral removed the very individual within and stood as the vanguard against the human race's right to grow. From the very beginning, he was the orchestrator of humanity's subjugation, turning allies against each other, preying on people's darkest fears and hidden desires. But no matter what happened, the heart of those who believe in themselves can never be crushed, and it all came down to a battle bigger than the universe itself. A physical and philosophical battle battle that stretches the cosmos, a fight for survival, and who gets to choose how humanity lives their lives, underground or in the stars. Should humanity go unchecked? Should our futures be set in stone? Is it worth fighting for when nothing lasts? Even as a viewer of this confrontation, I remember that unease, the anxiety I felt the first time I saw it. What if the anti-spiral was right? What if we're not meant to go beyond our limits? What if we really do cause more harm than good? What if I should give up? Simone has come to believe that as long as we believe in ourselves and each other, that nothing is impossible. Even when the fight would move more and more into the anti-spiral's favor, that all of their attempts were futile. It wasn't enough to shake Simone and his allies' resolve. The sacrifices made here, the speeches and revelations, the intense music, and the over-the-top animation are made that much more impactful because we know what the stakes are. This clash of ideals is what pushes it to new heights, and the catharsis of seeing Simone put one final drill through the anti-spiral, there is no better feeling in the world.
ならばこの宇宙必ず守れよ。
当然だ。お前も信じてくれ。俺たち人間を。
I often feel like I'm in a battle with myself, that I'm always getting in my own way, that if I was able to just defeat the part of me that keeps dragging me down, that I'll become the person that I want to be. I think the reason fights are so fascinating to me is because they represent a character proving who they are and what they want through struggle. It is a literal manifestation of a character fighting back against something they believe is oppressing them. It's not so much the violence that captivates me, it's the strength of will to fight and a clear goal to strive for. Real life feels more complicated. When things feel like they're dragging you down or causing you problems, you can't physically fight that. Fights in fiction feel like an escape, a daydream, like Simone drilling past the anti-spiral. I guess I wish I could do that too. Why am I telling you any of this anyway? Here I am waxing poetic again when I said I didn't want to get deep. Alright, well, let's wrap this up for today. I was gonna talk about my favorite fight, but I don't feel like it anymore. How about you just get out of here already? Fuck! No, stop. Johnny, please, stop! What? What's going on? I feel like I was talking about something. What was it? About, fights? Right? Yeah, I think. Fights in shonen. Yeah, that's a topic. There's like a lot to pull from. Like a lot. But if I really had to think about it, I think there's only one that stands above the rest for me. Because it's not just a fight. It's not just a story. It's a promise. A promise to walk the right path. The path of the warrior. Blackstar vs Mifune has to be one of the most complex fights that exists, and I don't necessarily mean the fight itself, more so all of the pieces that surround it. It's a fight I got to experience for the first time twice, and it only got better from there. The Soul Eater anime, for one reason or another, wasn't able to adapt the whole run of the Soul Eater manga. For a good amount of the show, it followed the story pretty faithfully, barring a few changes here and there. But the moment the series hit the Baba Yaga castle arc, the story takes a completely different direction. Instead of Maka fighting Arachne, she goes after Krona and Medusa. Instead of Kid fighting Mosquito, he learns the truth about Abon with his father. This whole section of the story is completely different, but the one thing that stayed was the final showdown between Blackstar and Mifune. which is wild to think about, but makes sense since this fight is one of the most important to the canon. And it's my favorite fight, because it perfectly combines two types of fights I like into one epic battle. It's the climax of Blackstar's development as a character. It's the final confrontation built up to since episode 2. Two swordsmen facing off to cement the kind of man Blackstar would become, and an answer to one question: what is the path you choose to walk? Blackstar's journey is one of self-identity. As the last of a disgraced race, he carried the weight of its dark past, labeled a monster from birth. Instead of being crushed under that weight, he declared himself a gift from the heavens, an unstoppable warrior, one who would surpass the very gods. His confidence seemed justified, as he rose to become one of DWMA's strongest young meisters. But then came the losses. One defeat after another shook his ego and exposed the fear he buried within. Was he destined to follow his father's path? Another loser who lost his way? Another reject who couldn't break free? A sinking feeling he could not shake, and it would cause him to lash out. This was the road of the demon, a fate Mifune the swordsman knew all too well. Mifune and Blackstar mirror each other. For Blackstar, Mifune represents the kind of swordsman he could become or surpass. For Mifune, Blackstar is a reflection of the young warriors he once knew and the bloodstained path he walked. As someone who spent his days killing for the highest bidder, he found purpose in protecting Angela the Witch. He found what he believed was his escape from this cycle of violence, but even that was not something he could walk away from with his blood-stained feet. Try as he might to steer Blackstar away from such a fate, the headstrong Meister wasn't ready to listen. After a series of crushing defeats, Blackstar sought refuge with Tsubaki, his partner. It was there at her home, under the dark sky filled with stars, that the truth became clear. Every warrior before him had walked the same two paths. The path of the warrior or the path of the demon. Would he become like his father, consumed by ambition only to be cut down by death himself? Or like Mifune, trapped in a life of remorse, forced to forego his own ambition for a chance at peace that you know will never come? Instead of choosing, Blackstar defied fate. He forged his own path, not just by self-belief, but also by the unwavering faith of those who stood by him. Round 1 went to Blackstar. Mifune held back and was caught off guard by these two young Meisters' abilities and teamwork. Round 2 belonged to Mifune, who outmatched Blackstar completely, on top of the fact that our young budding god killer was not himself to begin with. Both spared each other out of kindness, but now, as they face off one more time, it was clear one would not leave this fight alive. This battle stuck with me. It's not as technical as fights in Jujutsu Kaisen or as wild as the fights in One Piece, but it excels in committing to its theme and storytelling, pushing Blackstar's growth while also being undeniably badass. While Mifune, no longer holding back, fully lives up to his title, Mifune of the Infinite Swords. Every clash fuels Blackstar's growth, as Mifune raises the stakes, constantly testing his resolve, challenging the path he's chosen. While the anime is entertaining for the animation alone, and it includes much needed additions to the starting choreography, it does not hold up to the fully realized version in the manga. It is so much more electric. Blackstar's application of the shadow forms enhanced by Speedstar, the improved shadow chain, and then ending with the zeroth form katana, these are some of the most badass panels I've ever seen. Even the way the fight is drawn. Okubo actually evolves his art style through the fight, which leans into the emphasis of Blackstar's maturation. From aerial combat to raw swordplay, the fight turns brutal and bloody, culminating in a fierce final exchange where both fighters decide to meet each other on equal footing. The pages are coated with sketch-like strokes and splattered ink. Blackstar declares his destiny to become a warrior god. Mifune's nearly fatal strike met with Blackstar's decisive blow, bringing the battle to a somber end. Exhausted, Blackstar collapses, and Mifune is caught by Tsubaki, allowing him to be closer to the castle before the very end. At last, Mifune finds peace, knowing Blackstar has become a man worthy of the blade. no longer a boy teetering on the edge of his worst fears. Gone is the path of the demon, and what arose was a new god. I loved this fight, not just for the action, techniques, or choreography, but because at its core, it's a promise to believe in yourself and forge your own path. Blackstar doesn't just defeat Mifune in a sword fight. He proves that carving his own way forward is how he will surpass those who came before him. It's a battle of identity, of struggling with who you should be, feeling like you're failing yourself and those around you. But in the end, realizing that believing in oneself, just as others believe in you, is the key to growth. I often feel like I'm in a battle with myself, that I'm always getting in my own way. That if I was able to just defeat the part of myself that keeps dragging me down, that I will become the person that I want to be. But in turn, this mentality is why I falter. I must stop battling myself in the dark corners of my mind and learn how to keep betting on myself again. Stop second guessing and move as one body and spirit so that I can take on any challenge that comes at me. Thank you, Blackstar and Mifune. Through your fight, I've come to understand my own internal struggle. I now see that the unknown path isn't something to fear, but that self-belief isn't just about strength. It's about honoring those who believe in me too. I think I finally found the resolve I need to find my own way and win my very own fights. Hold on a second. What the fuck am I talking about? Where am I? Hey, you. Yeah, you. Where am I? Why am I stuck here? Tell me what's going on. I know you're there. Say something, anything. Just let me out of here. Shit.